And I mean, they literally change it the day it's supposed to happen. They change the time. Then they change it back. Then they change it again. And then they change it back. All in one day. And I'm like, hey, Judge, I just want to put a camera and catch these fraudsters on tape because I believe the people need to know what's happening. Well, it's now been postponed into February, March. I'm not sure if it'll ever get to court because I put a request in to tape the fraud. And I called the attorney and they haven't called me back. I'm talking about the other side, not the KOSHAKs, the finance organization, which I haven't named yet. It's a private finance corporation. No, you're thinking I was going to say B of A, and it's not B of A. But what they're doing strikes me just from the little bit I've read, and I haven't read all the records, but for what I've seen, and just the fact that all these judges get nervous when I put in a media request, and they don't seem to want to write me back and say, okay, you're approved or you're denied. Because if they deny it, I can appeal it. If they approve it, I'm in. But Judge Munez retired. And the next judge set it off, and then now it's to a different judge. And now I guess Judge Linda Marks isn't going to have it. It's going to go to some other judge. I'm not sure what judge will have it. Problem is, if they keep changing what judge, what courtroom, and they do it in the last hour, it's virtually impossible to get a media request in because you're supposed to get them in 5 days in advance. Do you see what I'm getting at? This has so ticked me off, I decided I want to let you at least hear some of the KOSHAKs. And if we are ready,
Yes, we're ready.
watch this. Nice couple.
Personal documents like passports, our passports are now missing. They were in the safe, okay? So we went ahead and it was all documented, what was done. They had, the opposing people had a representative there filming everything that was being taken out. She had to document everything that was being taken out. So when it was all done, the safe was closed up, their representative left, okay? So while I was standing there, I asked the sheriff, I said, excuse me, there's some things on top of the safe. Would you mind taking them down? And in there was a packet of papers, okay? So the sheriff said, well, here are these papers. Here, you can go ahead and have it. So I got up and I walked out of our garage where the safe was kept, and I was carrying the papers. Their representative marched up and said, you're not allowed to take anything out of the safe without me present. And my son's response was, those papers weren't in the safe, they were on top of the safe. Now, if she and the other people had not pilfered through the safe, how did they know that there were papers in the safe?
Well,
Good question.
well, to answer that, the incident she's referring to is the second incident. The first incident, when they changed the combination to the safe, they opened the safe. Nobody was present except them and the locksmith. There was nobody else in there.
Is that right, Helen?
That's
That
right.
is
The
correct.
first time, they had access to that safe from that day on. They were the only people with the combination. They had access for months to that safe, and nobody else did. They had the combination to it. What we're talking about, what Helen was talking about, was when I was allowed to buy back my own furniture.
You were allowed to
I was
buy back
allowed-
your own
Well,
furniture?
well, what happened is they were holding a public auction, which he happened to be there.
Which really wasn't very public.
They
There was only
refused
one
to-
person
yeah,
there.
They refused to allow him on the property, and he said, well, is this a private auction or a public auction? So of course, he walked in on the property. So he went ahead and he bid on, and was able to buy things back, okay? When you have a public auction, what happens is that you're supposed to be allowed then to take the things that you have just purchased from the property, okay?
Sounds reasonable.
The other buyer that was there came in a moving van, okay? My husband happened to be there. Their opposing attorney locked the gate, did not allow him to take anything off the property,
And
okay?
I left for New York the next day.
And was told,
2 minutes, we have 2 minutes left on tape. I'm gonna take a break. And rolling.
this was not the, go ahead.
This was not the first time they opened the safe. They originally opened the safe where just the locksmith and Lena They changed the combination.
How did you know they'd open the safe since you weren't allowed to be there? How did you know?
Nathan told me,
Oh, Nathan told you.
Our son would stay
And-
there and stream what was going on.
and I think he either overheard it through the microphone, or he knew it, but he knew the safe was changed.
He knew something had happened because Lena Burdoff took and moved her
Yeah.
car up next
Right.
to the garage, and they made it so that we couldn't, that my son, because
right.
he was streaming, he was taping it, could not see if things were going in and out of the garage.
And the locksmith was in the garage for over an hour.
Yeah,
I remember he
and the
told me that.
locksmith was in there for over an hour. He kept track of the time on that. And so somewhere through all of that, with people talking, he overheard that they had opened the safe.
Because the next time we opened the tape, they had the combination. A different combination,
A different combination.
different combination.
And
How
Lena,
did you get
and
the-
Lena,
Did they drill it open?
No, the safe looked fine. He just picked the safe,
Oh, he picked the safe.
picked the lock. You know, you take a hearing aid or something, and you did something.
the only way we could then get back in the safe is Lena
Nope.
Burdoff had to submit the lock, or submit the
They
combination.
opened it.
And they gave the combination to the police officer, and the police officer opened it. Because we pleaded with the police officer to allow us to get in there. The police were not going to do it. And when I said that I was concerned about identity theft, that they needed to open it. And when it was opened, we then realized our passports are now missing, as well as all of the documents that were in there.
Was this the same day that they changed the combination?
No,
No.
this was the second.
Months
This was
after.
months. This was months later.
Months later, and now
Yes.
your passports are stolen.
Right, right,
Now, when they forced you out that day, I think it was June 25th,
correct.
on that day, how much time do the sheriffs give you to unload all your stuff out of the house?
Well, first of all, you have to realize that we were being illegally evicted, okay?
Right.
We were supposed to be given a notice, and these notices had been squashed because of the fact that we had a fraud investigation going on regarding the signatures on our mortgage, okay? The day that the sheriff came to our property, I found this out later because I wasn't on the property at the time. They didn't come under the pretenses to evict us. They came and they asked my husband if he had a gun in his house, and they needed to see his gun. As a law-abiding citizen, he opened the gate and let them in and went and got his gun. At that time, they took his gun, and then they proceeded to do the eviction. So while the eviction was going on, they said, you have 30 minutes to get everything.
Well, they seem like a nice couple, don't they? Norman and Mrs. Koshak. She's suffering, as she describes it, she's a cancer survivor. And Norman has had a tumor removed from his brain, and it's growing back. And under these circumstances, they tell him, hey, sign these documents. You got a $2 million property. We'll give you a big loan. We'll even give you an extra $400,000, but we'll hold that extra $400,000 and we'll make all the payments for you. So they think, oh, we're all set to put our two sons through college. Life will be wonderful. We'll go on a permanent tour of the world on a cruise ship for 9 months or whatever, all paid for. And they'll make the payments on our house, and our kids will go to college and come back to the same. Everything will be great.